Hey everyone, thanks for watching How To Pixel, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I tear down this whole light show, store it, and fit it all right here behind me. So, let's get started. So for the first time in How To Pixel history, this video has a sponsor. So I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay, but we'll get to them later in the video. For now, let's talk about all of this mess. So most of this video was actually recorded the day after New Year's Eve. As soon as the light show was over with and there's nothing else I need to do with it, I wanted to tear it all down and not have to think about it. So this year, I decided to record the process of taking everything down, how I do it, a couple of pro tips for storing things, and just all of the things I do to clean up the light show, so maybe you can watch this and find it useful for when you clean up your light show. Storing a light show, especially when you have a big one, is no easy task. With all these big trees, candy canes, arches, snowflakes, it can be really hard to find somewhere to put them, and you're gonna have a lot of designated space like I do. But actually this year, we got most of the light show to fit in a tiny area. Now first, I want to take you all the way back to the videos on January 2nd and show the process of how I picked up everything. And then later on in the video, I'll show you where I put everything. There's a lot of time lapses, but I'm gonna have a voiceover with me explaining what I'm doing, so you're not just sitting there watching a video of me running around the yard super fast, cleaning up and putting everything in a bin. So let's go to that. So I'm outside in the garage where the light show control center is, and today is cleanup day. We are going to be cleaning up the whole entire light show. Well, actually not the whole light show. We're going to be trying to clean up as much as we can because there's some bad weather coming soon, and we want to get a lot of it done. And every year I always say to myself, I'm going to make a video about how I clean everything up, but I never get to because I just want to hurry up, get it all down, and not think about Christmas lights for another 3 months until I get to start worrying about next year. But this year I'm going to try and show a little bit of how I clean up and where I put everything, where I store everything, and how I fit it all in this tiny garage, because this is basically all the storage area we have is this little garage. Well, first what I normally do is I'll clean up all of this, the important, expensive computers and controllers. I'll take out the controllers and de-wire this whole area and take all of that, and usually that stays inside the house. I'll bring it into my room because any of that I don't want to leave it out in the cold all winter and then leave it out in the summer all along until I get it back out again. Next, I'll also take in the controller boxes. There's one there, there's one in the tree, and then there's one up on the roof that you can't see right now. I'll take all those in next because those are also really important, expensive electrical stuff in there. And since they aren't being used now, there's no reason for them to stay out there. So those are the most important things I'll take in first. We used to have the projector box that sat in the driveway right here, so I'd also take that in next. But now we have the giant screen to worry about. So I don't know how I'm going to store this, where I'm going to store this. I think I'm going to have it just be on the back wall here. We need to move stuff. But before I do that, I'm going to have to take one of the backs off because I want to take the color light card inside. I don't want that staying out here, not being used for months. So I have to unscrew this and take that out. I really want to find a better way to have a back on this next year because I'm going to unscrew it every time I need to fix something. It's so annoying. I have to unscrew all of these screws all around the entire panel. And then once I get over the important expensive stuff safe and back inside or somewhere, next I'll usually start focusing on getting the easy stuff down. And most of the yard stuff, that's what I'll try and do first so we can have our yard back. I'll take down the pea stakes, the arches, the candy canes, and the mini trees, since those are all on the ground and easy to get to. I'll probably also unscrew all of the lights on the side of the house, this strip. I'll unscrew all of the strips to put those away. And then the tree and the roof will probably be last. Usually because I have my dad help me with the roof, and for the tree, that is at least a 2-person job. It's very hard to get that down with one person. There are some things I don't know how I'm going to store this year since they're new, like the mini trees. I don't know if I'm going to cut the zip ties and fold them up. I don't really want to do that because that's going to be a pain next year, or technically this year now, to put away. The candy canes are really tall and can't fit in a bin, so I'm also not sure what I'm going to do about that. The Tune 2 sign is massive. That will not fit in a bin. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that either. The singing faces I got to fit in a bin last year, but it kind of bent them. So I don't know if I want to do that. And then also the snowflakes, those get left out of a bin because those are too big to put in a bin. So what goes in all these bins is mostly all the strip, the arches, pea stakes, and all of the wires. Those also get put away. I'm hoping to use these tags this year when I put the wires away. That way I don't lose track of which wire goes where. I've never tagged them because every year I just want to get the lights down and be done with it, take a break. But then Halloween time comes and I don't remember which wire goes where. So I'm having to solder new wires and test wires everywhere. So I'm going to label them like this goes to the arch, this goes to the flake, something like that. The Ethernet cables, power cables, all of this stuff up here usually goes in my room, so I don't label the Ethernet cables. I'll usually just put them in big rolls like this and put them in my room. Now, me and my mom are going to begin taking stuff down outside, and I don't really want to be recording each piece of it because I want to just focus on getting this down. So I have my GoPro, and I'm going to put this in time-lapse mode so you can watch a nice long time-lapse of us taking down a whole bunch of stuff. And then at the end, when we have most of it down, I'll try and document how we got it in the storage bins. If we run out of room in the garage, we also have a shed out back, and we have a little bit of room in the shed. So some of the bins that aren't that important might be put into the shed. But most of it I like to try and keep in the garage in case I ever need to get to it for testing or for a video or something. But that's basically the plan and what we're going to start doing. So now I'm going to start by taking down all the controllers and important stuff in here. And then later I'm going to move to working out there. Now, before we continue on tearing down the light show, I want to take a quick second to talk about today's sponsor of the video, PCBWay. Have you ever wanted to design your own circuit board but don't know where to go because of the many PCB printing services? Well, then look no further than PCBWay. PCBWay can print your circuit board designs for any project, no matter the size. Whether you need 5 or 5,000 circuit boards, PCBWay has you covered. You can use their instant quote tool on their website to design and select everything your PCB needs, then upload the Gerber file. They offer multiple different material types, layers for your board, and so many other customization options. You can even select for them to assemble and solder on all the components for you. They are located in China but have extremely fast shipping, with most orders being delivered around the world in about 3 to 7 business days. So if you're looking to get high quality PCB boards fast, then check out PCBWay at www.pcbway.com. I'll put a link to them in the description. But now, let's get back to tearing down the light show. So first, like I said, I took out all the controllers and computers. A lot of the wires were zip tied or had something holding them together, so I had to undo those. Right here, you can see me taking out the F16 V5, and a little pro tip, if you take off the door to the controller box, it makes it a lot easier to unscrew or screw in the controller. Meanwhile, while I was taking everything down in the garage, my brother started pulling the P stakes out of the ground so I could pack them all up when the time came. They're pretty easy to pull out, they aren't that deep in the ground. A couple were frozen since it was cold out, but it wasn't much of a problem. After that, I also had him take down part of the arches while I finished the controllers. Then you'll see me come out and start to take apart the controller box in the yard. I took out the smart receivers and power supply, but left all of the wires so I could label them. You'll see me walk around later with a clipboard so I could draw on all the labels and put them on the wires. And then here's what we did with the screen. Okay, status report. We have all of the main controllers, computers, and everything down. Still have all of the cables. They went places though right here. I will deal with those once I take down the highway of cables and unzip tie it, untape it. And then we were able to find a spot for the screen right here. The reflection is terrible. Hi. We have this cabinet here, but it did not fit under it, so I had to unscrew this and raise it just like an inch. But the screen fits here, so it's going to be out of the way, which is so much nicer than it was this summer after we built it. It was just sitting, covering all the space in the garage. And then we took a ratchet strap, and I hooked it to the one hook there, and put it around the attic beam. So just in case anything happens, it won't fall over, and there's going to be piles of bins here anyway. But right now, all of the bins are out here in the driveway, and they're ready to be filled with stuff. I'm going to work on finishing the yard, and then we'll see what else I can get to before it gets dark. It is winter, so it's going to get dark in like 3.5 hours. But let's see what we can do. Now for this time lapse, please don't mind the glitchy video. I accidentally hit the delete button on my GoPro, so I had to use some software to try and save this video. Anyway, what you'll see me doing in this part is rolling up all the data and power injection wires, labeling them, and putting them in storage bins. This year, I put all the wires in just one bin so I wouldn't lose them when I go to get everything out for the next show. I also picked up the pieces of the arches that holds the pixels. I found a really long bin that would allow me to store them without having to bend them, so I used that this year. After that, I pulled all the PVC pipe out of the bases to store those in the garage. If you want to know how I built these arches, you can check out this behind the scenes video and skip to this time on the screen. For the bases of the arches, I just store those out back behind our house. After the arches, I started taking out the candy canes, but the rest of the video went corrupt. So here's something I recorded after I took out all the candy canes. So something I wanted to show, I got all of the arch pieces up and most of the candy canes. I still have the controller box here, but I took the controller out. There's just wires in it. I'll get that last.
I still have this one candy cane to take out, and I want to show something about how I'm going to store it. So I showed this in the behind the scenes video. There's a piece of rebar that is zip tied to the candy cane, and that goes all the way down into the ground, and that's what holds it up. Now what stops it from spinning is the arches next to it. I have it zip tied to the arches, but since there's no arch here, it can still spin. But the problem is when I pull this up, and you will see now with this pulled up, the stake goes down a really long way. So this makes it hard for storing because this won't fit in a bin, and you can't really stand this up because the stake will make it fall over, and you don't really want to take it out unless you want to cut all the zip ties and have to redo it next year when you put it up. So what I found is if you take out this pixel right here and that pixel, watch what you can do. With these two pixels now out of the way, let me just move it. You can push the piece of rebar or whatever you have holding it all the way up through, and it won't poke any pixels. Now it sticks up a lot from the top, but the bottom is now flush with the ground. So when you go to store it in like our garage, you can have it sit on the ground now, and that makes storing this a lot easier instead of having to have the extra stakes stick out and have it fall over all the time. So that's a neat little thing you could do with this. And then when I go to put the candy canes out next year, I could just shove the stake back through. All of the zip ties are still there, and I could just put the two pixels back in the hole. So that's something neat I just wanted to show you. So after I took out the candy canes, I took out the Tune 2 sign, which was way easier than I thought it would be. Then had to do my most favorite thing of all, pick up the painfully annoying piece stakes. The problem with the piece stakes is they come in sections of 10, so 10 piece stakes have to be wrapped together and they can't be separated. It's hard because all the wires will get tangled together, especially when you try and take them back out. But here's what I do that's made it a little bit easier for storing. Now I wanted to show how I pack up the piece stakes in the front yard and how much of a pain it is. Packing up these piece stakes are so annoying. I would rather set up 10 megatrees than pack up one set of all of these piece stakes because it is so annoying. While yes, I could just throw all of them in here, it wouldn't be that hard to pack up then, but unpacking it when it comes Halloween time is so annoying because they'll be all tangled, and even setting these up, punching them on the ground, this is the most annoying part. So the easiest way I found for storage is to take a bungee cord and wrap it around a set of them. It's not like they're one single one that I could pack away. They come in sets of 10, and there's wires going between each of them that I can't cut unless I put a pigtail in between each one, and that would be even worse. So I have 7 sets, and I'll just wrap them up and put a bungee cord around them. But for 2 of them, I don't have enough bungee cords, so I'm gonna hate myself when I go to open this in Halloween because I just threw the rest in here. But this is how I wrap them up. I can't take the wooden dowels out because it'd be a pain having to re-zip tie all 70 of them. So if anyone has any better storage ideas, please let me know. I would really love it. Packing these are so hard, but I got them done. Now all I have to do for the yard is the mini trees out here, and then just take care of this controller box. And I'll probably move on to stuff that's on the front of the house. Pulling out the mini trees wasn't that hard. The only problem is you can't push up the rebar like you can with the candy canes because of the stars. The next thing I did was take everything down on the front of the house, and it was pretty easy. The wreath, garage, windows, and door outlines are all just screwed into the siding, so I just have to unscrew them. The only problem is, this spring, we are getting the siding redone, so I'll have to find another way to mount them. I have some plans in mind, but that'll come later in the year. Storing the outlines are really easy. I could just bend and fold them up to put them in a bin. The wreath is a little harder since it's really big. I just ended up leaning it on a wall in the garage since there's really no other place for it. And then came the fun part, taking down the tree. This is at least a 2-person job, especially when you get to the part of taking the pole out. I don't have any fancy crank system like most people have. It's literally just the pole and a wooden base. So you have to lift it out of the hole and then lay it down on the ground. First, what I do is take out all the wires and the controller box, then cut the zip ties to the strands of lights that hook to the PVC pipe. Once those are all off, the piece of PVC pipe gets pulled out and put away. Then while someone holds the tree, I'll pull out all the guy wire stakes. The guy wires are basically the only thing that holds up the tree because the pole moves a ton without them. Once those are out, we just lift the extremely heavy pole out of the hole and lay it down on the ground. I decided to use a chair to lean the pole on once we got it down because of how muddy it was. Now we just have to unhook the star, the strands of lights, and then store them. The star has a smaller pole hooked to it, which then goes inside the bigger hole that holds up the tree. It's bolted in, so that way there's no chance of it coming out. Since the pole for the star isn't that long, I just leave it attached. The star doesn't really have a designated storage spot, I just leave it out against the wall in the garage. The longest part of taking down the tree is actually unhooking all the strands of lights and rolling them up. For storing them, I'm able to fit all the strands of lights in about 2 to 3 bins.
For some reason, when I first built the tree in 2021, I made the strands with the input on the bottom a different length than the ones with the input on the top. I don't know why I did this, but it's really annoying when I have to unpack them and hook up the tree because I don't know which ones are which. So usually when I'm storing them, I try and keep the different lengths separated, that way it can be a lot easier when it's time to set them up. I also put the guy wires, hooks, and other small pieces for the tree into one of the 3 bins. When it comes time to store the pole, it actually comes apart into 2 sections. The pole is made from metal fencing pipe and it's 2 sections that are fitted together and then bolted. This makes it a lot easier to deal with 2 smaller poles than one 12 or 13 foot long pole. The final thing I have to do for the tree is put away the 2 4x4 boards. They just lay out back alongside our house with the arch bases. And that's everything for packing up the megatree. So that is how I took down almost everything in the light show. When I was recording those videos that day, I didn't get to go on the roof or take anything down on the roof. But about a week after, a huge snowstorm was coming and my dad didn't want everything up on the roof flying around since it wasn't being used. So the day before, we scrambled and got everything down. I labeled all of the wires, all of that. And all of that is already stored in its place and it's not going to be moved until fall time when the Halloween light show comes. But now I'm going to show you how I store everything and maybe you could find some useful tips out of this. So I don't think I've ever given a full tour of our garage. You're gonna see my reflection terrible right there because of how reflective the screen is, but I'm gonna show you how big this garage is. It's actually not that big. You definitely cannot fit a car in it. This is the corner where most of the bins get put, and we also have an attic up there where we store some stuff that I'll get to in a second. Over here to the right is where usually all the controllers are. They sit on that shelf, all plug into that outlet. The garage is right here. And then we also have this very crowded, messy workbench. This is where like all the soldering for wires and everything for that goes down. So that's how big our garage is. We also have a shed out back, but it's already mostly full. And actually, we didn't have to use the shed because we were able to fit almost everything in here. So the first thing I recommend when you're storing things is use these bins. Or at least use some type of bin. Don't keep all of your wire or pixels out. With some of the bigger props, obviously, you can't fit it in a bin, so that's fine to leave out. But for me, at least, I don't like to leave everything all over the place. I like to try and put it in bins. And especially because we have a really big problem with mice getting in our garage. I don't want them chewing any of the wires or anything. So I try and keep everything in bins. Now, we have 3 of these stackable bins, and these are the best bins to use because you could stack them. You can find these at Walmart and I'm sure Lowe's, Home Depot, other stores. I was thinking maybe one year of having a shelf out here. That way, if I need to get to something on this bottom bin, I don't have to move all of them. I can just pull it out from the shelf, but we don't do that right now. We do have a bigger bin on top. A lot of these bins are filled with strips from the megatree. All the way on the bottom, we have this really big bin. It's a really long one. I don't remember exactly how long, but it was big enough to fit the arch pieces and the singing faces inside of there when you took the brackets off. So that was something nice. 2 of these bins have pea stakes in them. And then I don't remember what the other bins have in them. Even though it's only been a few weeks, I've already lost track of it. Like I said, we also have some attic space. And what the attic is mostly used for is storing long pieces of anything. All of the pieces of PVC pipe that go around the roof that hold the lights, they all go up there. If you look over this way, there's also some PVC pipe up there. Those are all the pieces of PVC pipe for the arches, and I think the piece of PVC pipe for the tree is also up there. If you come and take a look behind the screen, we shoved a bunch of the big props back there. That way they're out of the way. Like the wreath we have right here. Behind that, we have the Tune 2 sign. And if I turn that on, you can see we have the candy canes lined up back there. We also have the Star 2 right here. All of this is just sitting behind the screen. The screen helps it not tip over. And it's just out of the way. So that's how we store that. The metal fencing pipe for the tree, we have a piece just leaning against the wall right here. Probably shouldn't be right near this electrical panel. Neither should this box be. So I'm going to move that after I'm done with this. And then we have the other one shoved behind the screen back there. And this is actually most of the light show right here in the garage. Now let me take you to where everything else is stored. So earlier in the video, I talked about where I store the arch pieces. We just leave these against the back of the house. There's the 5 arch pieces and then the 2 beams for the megatree. We just leave these outside because there's not really anywhere else to store them. And then over here, we have this thing that was meant for like holding trash cans or something, but we don't use it anymore. So I thought of storing stuff in here. Now, I don't know how I'm going to open it because I don't want to touch the snow. Okay, there we go. And in here, we just piled a bunch of the other stuff in here that couldn't fit in the garage. So we have
The 5 mini trees, they're in here. The pieces of rebar are still on the bottom because I didn't want to cut them off and have to re-zip tie them, but they fit in here. We also have all of the snowflakes. We even left the bases on, those all fit. We put all the sandbags in here, and then we also have the fog machine box, the box that the fog machine sat in. And then we just have some extra wood from the screen in the back. We've never had a problem with animals getting in here before, so I think all of this should be fine. I'll tell everyone how it went when I go to unpack this in the fall.
So that is how we stored the entire light show. There's not really anything special we do, but hopefully you found some tips out of this. The biggest thing I'd have to say is thinking about storing everything doesn't come when it's time to take down the light show. It doesn't come when it's time to put up the light show. It comes when it's time to design your light show. When you're designing and thinking how you're going to build everything, keep in mind how you're going to store everything. Sure, you could make a 100-foot tall megatree that has tons of lights on it and they would look awesome, but where are you going to store that when it's done for the winter and you have to find somewhere to put it for the summer? So almost everything in the light show had a plan when I was getting it, where I was going to store it, with the exceptions of coral props like candy canes or the 2-and-2 sign. There's not really a way you could break that down. But when you're building a megatree, you could find ways to maybe make the pole break into 2 or 3 pieces like I did. Find ways to store the base easier. Find ways to wrap up the pixels. And then giant plastic bins are always your friend because they help you keep everything in one area. And then you're not trying to dig through piles of lights trying to figure out where everything is. You could just dig through piles of bins and try and figure out which item is in which bin. So that's everything for this video. Hopefully you found it useful. Please let me know if you didn't find it useful and what I could talk about more in the future, or I could make a video updating information I didn't talk about. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.